Hard to believe, but in 1876 Detroit, this place was crowded, loud, and rough. Nothing like the calm city you know today. Right here was the city's beating heart. Markets yelling, deals cut fast, and fortunes grabbed before anyone blinked. Behind these fronts sat unpaid debts and desperate bets. Folks ready to gamble everything to stay ahead of progress. Hard to picture it, but families fought to survive right here. Every step, every deal, judged the line between comfort and hunger.
Just years before the boom hit, Detroit was quiet and modest. Its streets more river town than roaring engine. Then steel rails carved paths west. Factories hissed awake, and waves of newcomers poured in, all chasing paychecks, luck, or plain escape. Growth sprinted faster than judgment. Bricks rose quicker than laws, engines outpaced wisdom, and certainty vanished beneath new smokestacks. City leaders clinked glasses inside bright parlors, celebrating progress, promising a gleaming future sketched in neat ledgers. But only blocks away, cramped rooms sagged under laborers' gear, wet clothes steaming by stoves, rent due before breath returned.
These lanes once squeezed like ribs, wagons grinding past, shoulders bumping strangers hurrying to dawn shifts before whistles split silence. Work poured from every doorway. Iron hit, crates tossed, backs burning before sunrise. Here in 1876, this street pounds from dawn to dark. No pause, no slack. Sparks fly here. Hot iron turned to shoes and hinges for barns and ships.
Blocks like these powered Detroit. Cloth, iron, grain, timber flowing outward to railheads, river docks, and hungry markets beyond sight. Wages earned here fed a whole chain. Corner shops, landlords, river captains, bankers tallying every coin that rolled uphill. Veteran workers, gray at the temples, kept the rhythm steady, yet found their worth chipped away by cheaper hands and humming machines. Gears spun exposed, belts whipped close. One stumble meant ruin. A family broken in the time it takes a flywheel to finish a turn. Crowded bunkhouses hid quiet dread. Lose your job, and the street claimed you fast. Loyalty meant little beside a ledger's bottom line. Along one main artery, merchants bartered, laborers jostled for space, clerks scribbled orders, classes colliding within arm's reach. Pause that moment in 1876, and the entire city seems to funnel through a single frame, every struggle compressed into one street. Foreground first. Wagons creak under sacks of flour, children weave between axles, peddlers hawk thread and nails with frantic urgency. Midground swirls, horse car rattling past, porters hauling trunks, clerks swiping sweat with sleeves, messages traded in passing glances. Further back, chimneys haze the skyline, ships signal on the river, and timbers thud onto barges feeding factories already starved for more. Officials spoke of order, courts stamping deeds, councils praising industry, newspapers printing triumph in tidy, confident lines. Yet on factory edges, food vanished fast, rents rose faster, and danger clung to stairwells where lanterns smoked out darkness. Old settlers cursed rushing change. Newcomers fought for footing. Each group certain the other threatened what little they possessed. Night thickened with whispers, rigged loans, seized land, men forced out quietly. Resentment smoldered like coals beneath wet ash.
Detroit looked triumphant, but its engine ran on strained backs and fragile hopes. Stories worth hearing before they vanish in brick dust. This is where Detroit earns its keep. Noise stacked on noise, carts grinding past, every minute tied to someone's pay. Around us, crews haul crates, tally cargo, couple rail cars, mend wagons. Nothing glamorous, just the city's pulse in plain sight. Where you might see paved lots and glass front offices today, in 1876, men and women grind through 12 hours to stay afloat. This crew's day is simple and brutal. They lift, push, and balance loads that decide whether warehouses fill or families go hungry. No railside guardrails, no overtime rules, only a foreman's whistle, and the knowledge that refusing a shift can cost you everything.
At the very top stand, factory owners and merchants who trade land, ships, and credit. One decision from them can redirect whole streets. Beneath them, shopkeepers and skilled craftsmen hover. One bad season or failed shipment, and their careful savings vanish overnight. Further down, crowd day laborers, men hired at dawn and sent away by noon. Hands measured not by skill, but by how little they cost. Women scrub floors, sort tobacco, stitch garments. Children wind bobbins or pick slag. small bodies doing work sold at half a man's wage. Experience once meant security, a place at the bench for life. Now gray hair can mark you as slow, a name near the top of the layoff list. On stoops and corner benches, older workers trade stories laced with unease, wondering how long before strong backs make them obsolete.
Housing here presses close. Narrow fronts, shared stairways, windows staring almost into one another across the crooked lane. Inside, several families squeeze into rooms meant for one. Straw mattresses, tin basins, one stove fighting damp and cold. Across town, polished porches catch the sun, but here, every loose board and peeling shutter tells you exactly what wages can't cover.
Market days knot the city together. Farmers, sailors, buyers, and thieves elbow through stalls, trading cash, gossip, and quick calculations. In beer halls and smoky back rooms, opinions grow louder than prayers. Anger and hope hammered into words that never reach city records. Illness, fire, and sudden downturns haunt every household. One injury or bad harvest can shove an ordinary family over the edge. People watch the sky and price sheets with equal anxiety. Too much rain, a new tariff, a distant panic can shrink pay without warning. Whole districts seem to shift underfoot. Fresh mansions rise while nearby blocks sag, and people sense lines being quietly redrawn. Older citizens mutter that Detroit moves too fast now. Voices sharper, favors pricier. The pace of life no longer set by daylight. Behind tavern doors, low-talk circles shady contracts and paid-off officials. Tales traded like cards, each hinting at unseen winners. At closing time, a few traders linger over empty stalls, counting losses, recalling deals that favored the bold and crushed the trusting. Certain alleys earn reputations in silence, places where debts are pressed, questions discouraged, and footprints fade into the mud.
These back streets and yards keep Detroit running, even if no one writes their names down. Choices in offices ripple here. We'll trace what those decisions set loose.
Once we see Detroit's streets at day's height, now we return as evening settles, and familiar corners seem heavier, more watchful. Behind the known routines of labor and leisure, a slow pressure builds. The city appears unchanged, yet conversations sharpen around it. Smoke hangs lower over the factories at dusk, and men walk faster, sensing choices made elsewhere that will land here by morning. Near the council chambers, coats grow thicker, tempers shorter. Meetings stretch longer, as if each session tries to outshout the last. In these years, production climbs ruthlessly upward, orders swell, rail cars multiply, but wages stall and hours stretch like iron rails. Profits flow toward offices with polished doors and steady lamps. Those who sign contracts rarely touch the tools that earn their income. For laborers and small traders, the same surge feels like narrowing ground. More work demanded, less security when illness or age arrives.
We meet a man who holds this city up in quieter ways. A skilled hand whose name never appears in the headlines or ledgers. How many hours do you work? And who waits for you at home when the day ends? From dark to dark, 10, maybe 12 hours. My wife takes in washing, and our boys run errands. 2 rooms, short walk from here. Bread, beans, meat if we're lucky. You've watched Detroit change. What feels different now? Work's faster, louder. Machines coming in. Prices rise before wages do. I fear being hurt or replaced. Younger men cost less. One injury, and we're done. They whisper about taxes and rich men. Deals made where we can't see. Nothing clear, but enough to worry you. You see men reading posted rules aloud, arguing over pay scales, counting on fingers which week they might finally fall behind. Some mornings, the foreman's list ends too soon. Hands remain in the air, and those not chosen drift away as if carrying extra weight. Just beyond, the building where contracts are signed looks almost quiet. Curtains straight, stone steps clean, as if strain never reaches here. Imagine knowing that your entire household depends on decisions made behind those doors, in rooms where your name is never spoken. Today, we meet a woman who trades not in steel or timber, but in trust. A boarding house keeper watching the city through her doorway. When you look at the last few years, what shifts press hardest on this house, on your business, and on the people under this roof?
Days grow longer while purses grow thinner. Men come home later, owing more, and rules about payments change faster than seasons do.
Flour costs nearly twice what it did when I started. Candles, coal, everything climbs, and I say no more often to meet at supper.
What do people talk about when they sit here at night? At the tables? On the steps? What fears follow them inside from the street?
They worry that one notice on a factory wall could empty every room upstairs. They dread taxes they do not fully understand.
There's anger and weariness, but also pride. People say they keep the city running while others count coins.
There is one day when every thread of worry and expectation seems to knot in a single place, drawing Detroit's gaze to one corner. On paper, this image looks like another historic scene, ink lines, frozen faces. Yet, for those present, it is the ground giving way. The crowd pushes and sways. Some hold placards high, others shout until hoarse, and a few linger at the edges, unsure whether to join. Across from them stand officers and hired guards. Above, officials and merchants watch from windows, weighing risk against reputation. Children cling to skirts. A boy clambers a post for a better view. Hands either reach forward in defiance or pull loved ones back. In wealthy districts, curtains twitch. Families debate whether order holds or cracks. Ledgers remain open beside untouched plates. On workers' streets, this same moment is felt as a test, whether their voices matter at all or simply echo off stone facades. In churches, taverns, and kitchens, people fit the event into older stories. Some call it judgment, others opportunity, others a storm. Older workers recognize the pattern from past downturns, yet find fewer places to retreat. The safety nets they trusted no longer hold. In line outside hiring rooms, worn faces study new notices. Some pray for stability, others whisper that the city has lost its way.
At these factory gates, people do not just come to earn their bread. They come to learn whether they still belong inside at all.
Detroit murmurs in stairwells, behind counters, over wash basins. The city learns news faster through whispers than through printed lines. One household welcomes change, convinced it will bring roads, schools, fresh customers. Another tightens belts, expecting only new burdens. Many shrug, insisting turmoil is nothing new. Yet even they admit that this time, the volume of change seems harder to ignore. In polished parlors, leaders insist every hardship serves progress. Statistics are summoned to prove that disruption is a passing phase. In alleys and boarding houses, the story bends another way. People say they are paying bills for a future someone else has ordered. Clerks and small shopkeepers stand between fear and favor, anxious to keep credit with the powerful while avoiding neighbors' resentment. Here, before this doorway, demands are read, refusals given, compromises hinted. The stone remembers every footstep and shouted word. What happened is named in newspapers and reports, but beneath the official language lie faces deciding who to follow and whom to fear.
Right now, this square feels ordinary. Benches, traffic, just a regular day. But this ground once meant something far heavier. Back in 1876, this spot carried risk and hope. Families wondered if being here would help them survive or put them in danger.
Now we know how this city strains and argues with itself, how routine days can tilt suddenly when pressure long ignored finally speaks. We still remain close to the ground among individuals. What we do not yet see is how memory will shape this turmoil into a story. Detroit has already weathered those loud days. This square now feels calmer, yet every stone still carries the echo of that unrest. From higher ground, the city spreads outward, slightly altered routes and habits, revealing how those clashes have quietly reshaped its rhythm. One district rises from the turmoil brighter than before. New brick fronts, busier carriages, counting houses packed with ledgers and ambition. Another quarter fades. Shuttered doors, sagging porches, smokestacks gone cold. The noise thins, leaving gaps where families once crowded together.
Standing with me is someone who grew up right after the turmoil, when the city was quieter, but nothing felt settled. Over one winter, the street outside changed faces. Old shops vanished, new names appeared. We learned to count by watching prices on the chalkboard. Each erased number meant less food, and more cousins leaving to try their luck. People stopped mentioning certain names. Men who prospered when others fell, everyone knew, but it was safer to call it the way things turned.
Fresh bridges and widened roads redirect the flow. Labor, goods, and chances now stream along paths drawn during those heated arguments. Inside council halls and courts, papers multiply, Permits, fines, and clauses define who may gather, who may trade, who must step aside.
Most pass through without glancing up. Only a few remember when this ground held banners, clenched jaws, and choices made in real time. A short walk away, the winning streets tell their own story. Larger homes, busier shops, fortunes built by reading the winds correctly. Farther off, the losing blocks feel thinner. Lots cleared, houses divided, workshops turned to storage as former residents scatter. Stand between them and the contrast is almost physical. One side thick with confidence, the other bearing the weight of being replaceable.
Official memory settles first in stone and ink, plaques, speeches, and careful timelines naming a few figures as the minds behind renewal. Schoolrooms and tours present the tale as finished, causes neat, lessons tidy, the rough edges of confusion filed down for young listeners. Around kitchen tables, a different cast appears. Neighbors who shared coal, foremen who spared a job, men and women who simply endured. Markets and backyards keep yet another record. Stories about the overlooked, the dismissed, the ones whose warnings never reach the minutes. Certain corners gain reputations, houses tied to quiet betrayals, alleys linked to courage. Rumor becomes a way to discuss blame and regret safely. Modern Detroit stretches far beyond those horse tracks and wooden walks, yet its main lines still follow decisions hammered out in 1876. Districts that once drew new capital often remain busy cores, towers and offices now standing where early investors first tested their strength. Outlying neighborhoods still bear older roles, cheaper rents, longer rides to work, expectations that hard labor will travel farther to opportunity.
On this quiet side street, people go about their day, unaware that years ago, it held someone's last gamble. No inscription lists the names of those who stood here, yet without their choices, this map of Detroit would look very different.
Archives still hold disputed notes, a missing letter, clashing testimonies about one key vote, a motive guessed at but never fully proved. So part of that turning point remains unresolved. The city carries it not as an answer, but as a question that travels with every generation.